Hello, I'd like to talk to you today about what I expect in your video journals. These video journals are going to be about 3 to 5 minutes in length, and I would like for you to follow your claim, evidence, interpretation, or the CEI structure for presenting it. And so I'm going to model one for you and let you see what my expectation is. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is give you my claim, and I am choosing Mr. Darcy and what his motives are in Pride and Prejudice. So, Mr. Darcy is a member of the upper class, and he is concerned about propriety and social standing. However, when he finds himself falling in love with Elizabeth, that all changes, and so everything he does, once he loses favor with her, he designs it so that he can win her back. And so because she rejects him and his pride and his prejudice against her family, then he re-examines himself, and all of his motives are geared towards winning her back. He has to decide, is pride and social standing more important than being with the love of my life? Now, if you notice, I've stated my claim, and now I've got my evidence here. I put little sticky notes in, or you could set up a graphic organizer like we do in class, but you do need to be prepared for it. So my first bit of evidence is when he actually tells her how he feels about her. And he says on page 160, "In vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how much I ardently admire and love you." Well, ladies, that's nice to hear, but then he proceeds to tell her what's wrong with her family and why it would be such a struggle, why it's such a struggle with him in the first place. And he says, "Could you expect me to rejoice in the inferiority of your connections, to congratulate myself on the hope of relations whose condition in life is so decidedly beneath my own? Well, I don't know about you, but that's really not going to make me accept a proposal from a man who's just told me he loves me, but he hates my family and thinks that it's going to drag him down." So she lets him have it. And at that moment, he realizes, I messed up, and so I'm going to try to get her back if she will have me. So all decisions made from here on out are going to be reflected in his actions. Now, here are his actions. He helps to step up and make Lydia's marriage official. You know, she was the Scarlet Woman. She left with Mr. Wickham, and then he forced them to marry. And so with that, he played a part in that. And he called it his duty to step forward and endeavor to remedy an evil which had been brought on by himself. And that's on page 268. And her aunt tells her that. He doesn't really come in and brag on it, but the aunt conveys that to her. And so the motive behind it is that he's still trying to let Elizabeth know that he cares for her enough to help solve her sister's problem at his own expense. Okay, the next thing is that he does confess to Elizabeth that he is the one responsible for breaking up her sister Jane and Bingley's relationship for the same reasons that he was struggling with his relationship with Elizabeth. And so he says on page 309, "I made a confession to him, which I believe I ought to have made long ago. I told him of all that had occurred to make my former interference in his affairs absurd and impertinent." And so he makes amends that way and tells Bingley, if you love her, don't worry about her social standing. And so that way, if Elizabeth finds out that he's the one that did it and encouraged them to get back together, his motive is still to let her see that he's moved beyond that as well. He's moved beyond their social position and is willing to give it a try. And so if he's going to allow Bingley to do it, then maybe she should consider getting back together with him as well. Okay, and finally, when they do finally have their big discussion and he tells her again how much he loves her and asks, do I still have a chance? And she tells him she was aware of some of these things and tries to thank him for all his help. And he says, "If you will thank me, let it be yourself alone. That the wish of giving happiness to you might add force to the other inducements which led me on, I shall not attempt to deny. But your family owe me nothing. Much as I respect them, I believe I thought only of you. So right there is confirmation that everything he did, all his motives centered around winning Elizabeth back. And in doing that, the takeaway from this, the lesson learned, is that he is willing to challenge society, who expects him to conform and live in a marriage where he may not love the woman, but she's of his same social rank, so he should marry her. He challenges that and actually finds happiness with the woman he loves.